My name is Elena Kraft and I am 34 3 months ago. I stood outside a rented lakeside house in Florida during our family's Thanksgiving gathering while 200 guests laughed and carved turkey inside because my sister had decided I wasn't accomplished enough to cross the threshold that night. I handed a small envelope to the security guard. What was inside would take away something she had chased for years and force our family to reconsider what success really meant. The lake breeze carried the scent of stuffing and cranberries. As I approached the entrance, lights twinkling across the deck, I tugged at my sweater, blending into the holiday crowd. But the arrivals in crisp shirts and dresses whispered about funding deals and corporate wins, the kind of people who shaped opportunities from poolside conversations at the gate. The guard gripped his tablet, the party's hum pressing close. Name, he barked. My eyes stayed on the screen. Elena Kraft, the host's sister. He scrolled, paused, scrolled again. Nothing. Step aside. My confirmation pinged on my phone, but he ignored it. Lists were locked, no fixes. The line grew longer, tension building. I called Lara, the ring cutting through distant clinks and chatter. She answered, her explanation dropping like ice. She had deliberately excluded me. She made clear that my freelance financial work would clash with the investors and executives she cultivated. 8 years of advising clients didn't count as real traction in her view. It seemed unsteady, a shadow next to her corporate strides. This gathering was about their future and someone piecing together gigs couldn't. Along her dismissal was sharp, the guard's gaze steady as he moved in. No room for outsiders, he said, extending his arm to nudge me back to the lot. The interaction brief but pointed. I pulled out the envelope, heart racing. Past this to Lara. It's hers, he pocketed it, waving the next guest through. As I stepped back, the warmth of the deck faded into memory, and the chatter of the party became a distant hum. That envelope held a moment she could never have anticipated. A quiet shift poised to change everything. What came next turned the night upside down. Before I recount the unraveling and the chaos that followed, if you've ever felt excluded from your family for not meeting their expectations, like and subscribe and drop in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is on your end. The drive to the lakeside house felt heavier than I expected that evening. Miami's sticky air clung to the windows as I pulled up to the rented home. On the water's edge, lights strung along the deck cast a gentle glow over the gathering. I stepped out, adjusting my sweater against the breeze rolling off the lake, thinking it suited a family Thanksgiving. But the parking area was filled with sleek cars and guests in sharp outfits flowing inside, their conversations about market moves and deal closings drifting like smoke. This wasn't just relatives anymore, it was Lara's circle, a mix of startup founders and venture people whose handshakes moved fortunes. At the entrance, security guard blocked my path, his tablet glowing under the string lights. He asked for my name, scanning the screen with practiced motions. Elena Kraft, I said, mentioning my connection to the host. He double-checked, his fingers pausing as the list refused to acknowledge me. No match, he suggested. Maybe a typo or a +1 error. Yet my phone confirmation from weeks ago stared back at me, clear as the lake behind us. The line behind me grew longer, impatience rippling through the crowd. He radioed the coordinator inside, but the reply was negative. Final list, no exceptions. As I pressed, he shifted slightly, the air thick with the smell of roasting turkey. I dialed Michelle, the phone cold against my ear amid the distant clinking of glasses and muted laughter. She answered quickly, her voice layered with the party's background noise. When I explained the list problem, her tone dropped clinical. She admitted it had been deliberate, explaining how my presence would conflict with the investors and executives she cultivated. People closing multi-million deals, she implied. Freelance financial work seemed unsteady to them. 8 years of experience counted for nothing. It was all fragments. In her eyes, a mismatch for the polished high-stakes crowd she curated. That night revolved around their trajectory and a sister barely getting by month to month simply didn't belong in that. Picture her words hit sharp each one, cutting deeper into the quiet determination one had built. Over the years the guard's expression stayed neutral but firm, as if he had seen family edges fray before I ended the call. The screen dimming in my hand, no room for outsiders, he said plainly, guiding my arm back toward the gravel lot with steady pressure, the push firm enough to leave no room for argument. I paused at my car, the envelope from my purse suddenly feeling heavier. Pass this to Lara, I told him. It's meant for her, he nodded, slipping it under his arm before returning to his post. The party's energy pulsed, inside doors swinging open to reveal tables heaped with carved turkey, steaming stuffing, and cranberry sides pies cooling on sideboards, guests mingling freely, plates in hand, while I lingered in the shadows of the driveway, the gravel shifting under my feet as I walked back to the car, engine humming reluctantly to life, Miami streets stretching ahead, palm fronds rustling in the night wind, traffic lights blurring past. Her dismissal echoed beyond the exclusion. It rewrote my work casually, as if it were a temporary patch unworthy beside her corporate achievements. Freelance had allowed me to advise real portfolios, guide clients through market dips and gains, but to her it remained the lesser path. I turned toward a quiet diner off the main road, neon sign flickering against the dashboard, the booth welcoming with vinyl seats and a laminated menu, the waitress pouring coffee without fuss, steam rising as I stirred, nothing but the bitter warmth steadying the churn inside. My phone silent on the table, yet the quiet felt temporary. The party's orbit still tugging. Cousin Sarah texted first, asking why I was missing from the spread. Not on the list, I typed back her reply, flashing confusion, calling it absurd. Another cousin chimed, wondering about the empty seat. Michelle handled the invite, I replied, the words landing flat even on screen dots, hovering on her end, then stopping. The diner filled with other families, their easy chatter a sharp contrast to the knot in my chest. I paid the bill, stepping into the cooled night air, the lake house fading in the rear-view mirror. The roots of that exclusion ran deeper than I realized 8 years ago. I left a steady accounting desk to pursue freelance financial advising, drawn to the freedom of guiding clients through investments and retirement plans, one conversation at a time. My work grew gradually from small accounts to larger portfolios, but family gatherings always reframed it as lesser. At our Miami home, during a routine dinner, the table loaded with steaks and salads, while Michelle shared her latest win, detailing a high-profile contract for her firm, the kind that came with performance bonuses and team recognition. Vivian leaned in, her eyes bright as she praised the strategic steps that positioned Lara for bigger opportunities. Harren remained quiet, focusing on his meal, but attention inevitably drifted to me. Vivian asked about my client, lowered her tone, carrying that familiar undertone, as if comparing my progress to Lara's. I kept answers brief, mentioning steady growth without specifics about the portfolios or returns. Michelle jumped in, painting freelance work as unpredictable, lacking the security of her structured path with annual reviews and stock options. Vivian agreed, suggesting I consider a corporate role, maybe leveraging Lara's connections for an entry point. I pushed back gently, explaining that independence suited my style, yet the conversation circled back to Lara's projects and her cultivated network. Harren glanced over occasionally, but stayed on the sidelines, letting it unfold. Such evenings repeated, each chipping away at my quiet achievements. Another meal brought Michelle's update on a promotion with details of her expanded team and bonus structure. Vivian celebrated openly, toasting to ambition, while Harren's quiet nod acted as a buffer. I held back on sharing my own milestones, like certifications or landing complex clients. Defending them felt futile, the group's lens fixed on traditional climbs over my steadier builds. Then 6 months ago things shifted. A headhunter reached out, impressed by my track record with high-value accounts. Interviews followed, intense sessions on market strategy and risk assessment. The offer arrived quietly, a full-time executive role at a major investment firm overseeing a $500 million portfolio focused on growth funds. I kept it private, wary of family dynamics. No dinner announcements, no casual mentions. It became my own private pivot from freelance to structured leadership. Away from their judgments during those months, Vivian continued to highlight Lara as the family benchmark. Heron remained the quiet observer, the contrast sharpening my hidden progress, standing as proof against their assumptions. Freelance had taught me resilience, navigating volatile markets, and client trust. Now with the executive position, it evolved into something broader, yet the family's view remained stuck in old narratives. I often reflected on those patterns, how they shaped responses. The dinners had built a wall, one I had learned to scale alone, and those invisible threads ran through every milestone. Even when Lara announced her engagement a year ago, the news reached social media before my own phone. A gleaming photo of her ring in the Miami sunlight, captioned with joy. I reached out later, but the reply brushed it off as a busy time. The family chat for wedding plans kicked off without me. Vivian coordinating colors and dates with aunts and cousins. I stumbled upon it through a misdirected message, a screenshot of venue options meant for the group. When I pointed out the oversight, she fumbled, saying it spared me discomfort since I lacked the experience to weigh in on bridesmaid selections or vow drafts. Lara echoed the sentiment in passing, calls her choices landing on college friends and Shane's relatives, leaving me as the odd fit, more suited to quiet support than posed appearances. The pattern carried through smaller moments too. Lara's promotion toast at a local spot drew the family. Vivian celebrating her rise, while Heron clapped steadily. My invitations arriving last, or sometimes not at all. Vivian later citing packed CHEDULE's single at 34 became the unspoken label. Lara's subtle jabs during holiday gatherings, questioning my timeline for settling down while basking in her own glow. My friend Tasha Pute caught on early, our coffee meets turning into strategy sessions from college days. She had seen the family dynamics firsthand, advising against playing the perpetual backup. Why chase approval from those who measure worth by rings and titles? She pressed one rainy afternoon, stirring her latte boundaries. Aren't walls, she said, there filters, only see what you allow. I nodded, yet the pull lingered, the habit of smoothing edges for family peace. Tasha pushed further, sharing her own experience of being sidelined by a sibling who thrived on comparisons. It freed space for real connections, she said, ones built on mutual lift rather than own-up games. Lara's bridal shower plans intensified. Next, the event at a waterfront cafe, drawing Vivian's full attention. Invites sent to her inner circle, the theme centered on couple vibes, leaving single paths out. I learned through Sarah's casual update the exclusion framed as thoughtful, avoiding awkward singles amid paired bliss. Tasha texted right after urging me to set a line in the sand, don't shrink to fit their frame, expand yours. Her words lingering during quiet drives home, the Miami skyline blurring past the mock single status sharpened in group texts. Lara's quips about the clock ticking drawing Vivian's light laughs, Heron's neutral emojis, another layer revealed during Lara's bachelorette getaway photos, flooding feeds of beachside toasts with her chosen group. Vivian commenting hearts, Heron liking quietly without words. My absence went unnoticed, and the story of my life as an observer solidified. Tasha met me for walks along the bay, her pace matching mine as she dissected the family dynamics. Family doesn't mean automatic inclusion. It's earned through respect, not endurance. Set the standard, she insisted, or they'll keep lowering yours. The advice settled unevenly at first, clashing with years of accommodation, but cracks appeared, the weight of sidelining growing heavier with each overlooked moment. Lara's pre-wedding brunch followed a sunlit morning with mimosas and gift exchanges. Vivian hosting with a menu designed for paired guests. Sarah Later slipped me details the vibe, all about couple futures I navigated from afar. Tasha called later that week, her tone firm, you've outgrown the shadow's step. Forward the mockery of single. Status fading reframed as strength not deficiency, the weight of all those oversights pressed. In that moment standing in the parking lot, the envelope exchange, I balanced the urge to storm back in against simply driving off the lake house alive with guests from distant cities, cousins from Orlando, uncles from Tampa mingling over slices of pie there. Bonds a tapestry I would disrupt if my absence became the story Sarah would later puzzle over the empty spot, her texts probing for answers, yet the undercurrent would ripple wider. Lara would frame it as my choice, her sister too buried in freelance routines to prioritize family. Vivian might wave it off as a scheduling slip, Heron staying silent as usual. The Florida network of neighborhood cookouts and beach days catching the echo, solidifying me as the drifting piece, the one not quite fitting into their frame. That outlier label rooted in sidelong looks at block parties and holiday spreads, freelance paths and solo status already sparking quiet judgments now sharpened by this exclusion. Local chatter humming on the sister trailing Lara's forward march, her successes casting longer shadows. The car door clicked open, seat cool against my back, engine humming. Miami roads stretching ahead, bridges arching over dark water, the decisions settling like fog, staying meant swallowing another round of their script, shrinking to fit the gaps they left, leaving meant carving space, a break from the cycle where my efforts stayed. Footnotes, self-respect flickering not as revenge, but as a quiet claim poured into advising and shaping client futures without fanfare, and the executive role waiting in the wings. Unannounced, their lens didn't deserve the reveal, not yet, not on their terms. I tapped out a message to Vivian as the first bridge loomed. Not on the list tonight. Lara's call, heading back, her reply blinking fast, a flurry of confusion layered with defense. No glitch clear enough, the phone went dark, screen reflecting passing lights, losing the family threads. The Orlando cruise annual invites fading with the narrative. Lara spun, reputation in the community carrying its own sting. Florida's tight-knit circles remembering slights, the single advisor's sister versus the rising executive wife. Grocery line nods, cooling barbecue invites dwindling. The story of my absence at Thanksgiving fueling the drift, yet the cost felt lighter than enduring another evening as backdrop to Lara's glow. The main event, self-respect meant owning the exit, not begging entry. Tasha's words echoing faintly filters over walls, but shaped my way a step back to stand taller. Traffic easing near my building, the lot empty under street lamps. Keys jangled as I unlocked the door. The quiet apartment, a contrast to the house's buzz. I dropped onto the couch, the day's edge dulling in dim light. The executive offer papers resting untouched on the desk. 500 million under management, a leap from freelance, from ledgers to leading a $500 million portfolio at the firm. My days now filled with briefings on asset allocations and risk models. It was the result of quiet networking rather than fanfare, the role demanding focus far from family spotlights. The envelopes note had spelled it out, a card detailing the title and the $2 million personal fund assets I had accumulated through careful trades and client trusts, positioned as Lara's stake in stability rather than simply handed over the donation. Process moved quickly. Director Rosa Valdez met me in a plain conference room downtown, her folder open on the table. This $2 million fund will support our initiatives, she explained, sketching how the proceeds would bolster emergency housing and career programs for women. Starting over, the paperwork moved efficiently, signatures sealing the transfer to the shelter's account, the receipt landing in inboxes by midday. A copy forwarded to Lara with only a brief note, the intended gift now benefiting those rebuilding their lives. The barrage of messages followed, 17 voicemails from disbelief, 10 from Shane circling professional fallout, 23 from Vivian mixing concern with calls for reconciliation Harren's single message urging a conversation. His tone measured the family gathered. 3 days later at the Miami home, air thick with unspoken tension, Vivian hovering near the kitchen island, Harren settled in an armchair, Lara pacing the area rug, the card from the envelope unfolded in her hands, her eyes scanning the executive line, sharp intakes, as Nan Bates fixed her gaze. And you kept her out of the party. The woman managing $500 million. Vernon leaned in a dry laugh, escaping his lips back as connecting dots about my sister while I acted as gatekeeper. That was an unexpected twist. Sarah Maddox scrolled through her phone texts, showing I had RSVP'd early. This exclusion was deliberate, Lara faltered, blaming it on curating the right vibe for Shane's circle, but the card's details unraveled the story, with guests confirming my role on the spot. 3, recalling my freelance guidance on their investments. Vivian interjected that she had withheld the news for family. Nan countered, family sees beyond titles. You've undervalued her for years. That the discussion heated up, relatives divided, cousins aligning over the snub, uncles questioning judgment. Harren tried to mediate, his suggestions lost in the crossfire. Lara's composure finally cracked, the card folding in her hands when Tasha Pute's message cut through LinkedIn, buzzing. A party Gore had shared the card image linking to firm announcements. Your profiles are in the mix now. The share gained traction. Notes on the family rift drawing industry attention. Lara's feed filled with queries, her marketing pursuits overshadowed by the optics. A lead for a director role at a digital agency evaporated, the offer rescinded over perceived instability. Shane navigating urgent huddles, board notes flagging the episode as a liability. 3 pledges for his funding pulled back the shortfall, forcing budget cuts and delayed hires. The household fabric fraying, further local interactions cooled. Grocery line nods brief, weekend gatherings skipped. Vivian's coffee circles shrinking. Harren's golf rounds met with sidelong mentions of tension. 6 months later, momentum carried forward at the firm. My scope elevated, a suite with bay views and a small team reporting in evenings, shared with a graphic designer. Our hikes along the coast unfolding without pressure. Lara's correspondence arrived by post pages dense with reflection, ink tracing, therapy notes. The comparisons she had leaned on, now dissected as shields. The redirected funds paled against the relational void. She acknowledged no bid for absolution, just recognition of the divide. She had deepened the truth of the lines, unforced. My response concise, sent via text. What 2 million outsider, I don't know you. Contacts cease their self-respect, eclipsing lineage. True kin those honoring the unpolished path, severing fully, clearing the way ahead.